What is up, guys? It is KikiZilla101 here yet again, and we're back for another Paleo-Review, this time for the other figure I got in my first ever Everything Dinosaur unboxing, and that would be the EoFauna 2019 Giganotosaurus. Giganotosaurus means giant southern lizard. It could have grown up to 46 feet long, but despite being larger than Tyrannosaurus Rex, it was actually lighter, and most certainly was very fast for its size. And it likely lived in packs of up to 6 individuals. We did find a very close relative of Giganotosaurus called Mapusaurus, which is a smaller relative. We found it with 6 individuals, all in the same pit, and they died at the same time, clearly suggesting that they were all moving together or spending time in the same area. So it's very likely that Giganotosaurus itself also moved in family groups or packs, and it also probably fed upon sauropods, which were some of the largest sauropods to ever live that lived in the same environment. Now, with all that out of the way, let's move straight into the review, starting off with the pose. The pose on this guy is amazing. He's got this wonderful curvature down its back with this wonderfully arching tail. It really feels like it's on the move. Its head is moving off the side. Obviously, the articulated jaw makes it so you can have its mouth open or closed. And the legs are so fantastically done. This is actually going to lead into a funny story, because right now what you're seeing right there was the first ever teaser for this figure by EoFauna, just the bottom part of the legs, where I saw a lot of people guessing that it was going to be Concavenator, and some people were even saying Terror Bird. It was very obviously a dinosaur. I even jokingly said to my friend David, he can even recall that I jokingly said, watch it be a Giganotosaurus. And I said it more as a joke, so I technically didn't predict it, but I kinda did. And I said it, watch it be a Giganotosaurus, and guess what? It's a Giganotosaurus. But the legs on this guy are absolutely amazing. They really feel like they're carrying weight. They really feel like this animal's on the move. And the musculature and with the sculpt of this thing really helps sell that. However, it is very unstable. Now, this is EoFauna's first go at a bipod. You know, I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass for it, but everybody's been having problems with the standing on this guy. Mine does stand, but it's very unstable. As you see, I just barely poke it, and it can fall over. I mean, even just put on surfaces just a little bit wrong will make it fall. But this guy is very hard material. It's some of the hardest material I've seen any figure made of. It's so hard, in fact, I couldn't actually bend its feet back into place. So if you get one that's warped, you're basically screwed. That's a problem. So you might as well just try to get a new one, or send it back and have them send you a new one. For the most part, it stands. So I have to give them that. And the pose on the actual figure is really great. And it's always going to be hard to get a bipedal figure to stand right. And this is EoFauna's first go at it. So I'm really not going to hold anything against them at all. And I'm just going to give this one a 5. Hey guys, sorry for the little interjection here, but I do want to make a little note, because you guys will probably see during this review, I get pretty upset because this guy keeps falling during the review. And I just want to put it right here inside the pose section that I'm dropping this guy all the way down to a 4 out of 5, rather than the 5 out of 5 I was going to give it originally. So, yeah, because this thing is driving me crazy. It keeps falling and it's scratching itself up, as you can see right there. It's getting scratched all over. And that's simply because it keeps falling over again, and 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 again. And that's why I have its tail hooked underneath the Camarasaurus, so that it can hold it up. So thank you, Safari, for your beautiful Camarasaurus fixing the problems of this thing. Jesus Christ. Alright, moving on to detail. The detail on this figure is quite minute through the promotional pictures and stuff like that, but once you get it in hand, you actually do notice that there's a lot of detail to it. There's a lot of nice mixtures of wrinkles and these very small scales. You can really feel the texture to the actual animal there that makes it feel really alive. Even here you can see just in the face, it's getting really washed out, and the detail is very easily being washed. The wrinkles are the things that are standing out most prominently, and the stretching of the skin and the musculature is really what stands out. I mean, you can even see the ribs right there, and this weird line there. I don't know what the heck that is. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fleshy parts to this animal, and it really feels alive. And there is that detail there, however, it very easily gets lost, but that's due to the paint work, and so I really can't hold that against it. So because the detail does kind of get lost, I'm going to drop it down to a 4.5 out of 5, but it's still an amazing score because this figure is very, very well detailed. Alright, so moving on to paint job, this is the weakest part of the figure. Paint work is still very naturalistic. The colors are great. This like grayish green as the main color and this brown, they look great, and the black socks and everything, and the very well painted claws. The teeth are also very, very well painted. I mean, there's like no bleeding like at all on those teeth, which is incredible. There's a little bit of bleeding on the inside of the mouth, but that's not that big of a deal. Even the eyes are very, very well done, and the crests are very well done as well, but also you can really see how these are just stamped on there. These stripes and stuff do not look convincing at all, and they really detract from it because every other part of this figure is really amazing and naturalistic. The eye also is very distracting. I really don't like the bright yellow color that they chose for the eye because it just pops out of the figure in a very negative way, in my opinion. It just is way too obvious from a distance. There's one other part of the paint job that I think is a creative decision that I don't really like, which is the color of the mouth. It is just glowing red. The paint isn't very poorly done in here, but the color choice is just awful. The color choice is awful. I mean, look at this from a distance. I mean, that just pops out of its face. So the face has these stripes, which I don't mind the pattern itself. It's just the way they came out. They just look stamped on there. And then they just can't make up their mind what they want to do with the pattern because they have these horizontal lines on the neck here, and then it's separated by this one vertical line there, and that's on both sides of the neck, as you can see there. And then they just go into this spotty pattern that just continues onto the leg and gets a little bit less prominent until they go back into these stripes along the tail that'll eventually like turn into little bands, and then the belly has that. At least the belly's consistent. The paint work is definitely the worst part of this figure. However, overall, when you have it in hand, you're going to get used to it over time. Overall, it does a great job at making it feel very naturalistic. I think the bottom is very cool. It's very dirty, even though this part is a little too washed in. Yeah, I can't bring it down too much for the paint, so it's only going to be brought down to a 4 out of 5 for the paint work. Now finally, this figure's strong suit is paleontological accuracy. Now remember guys, I'm always holding these figures up to current modern day standards of paleontological accuracy, and this figure exceeds the paleontological accuracy in almost every respect. There is two things that are wrong with it. And I will get with those in a bit. But overall, this thing is amazing. I mean, the proportions are fantastic. Very long tail. The leg proportions are great. The arm proportions, the body shape is really well done. They have a little bit more flesh to it. I think the Safari figure does it slightly better in the shape of the torso, but this is practically the same thing. It's just a little bit more plump, so I'm not going to hold them back from that because I think it's just like muscle and fat tissue. The head is a beauty. Finally, we have a perfectly accurate Giganotosaurus head. Well, almost perfect. But the side shape, as you can see, if you guys recall from my Safari 2017 Giganotosaurus review, which you can see right in the top right corner right there, that review I did say that the head was a little off, and I referenced the Carnegie Giganotosaurus for reference because it had a better profile. This one has the perfect profile. It has the Giganotosaurus profile, but it also has the Giganotosaurus width, and if you look at it from the top, it looks exactly like the 2017 Safari Giganotosaurus. So they both got that right, but this one got it spot on. I mean, it could possibly do to be a little bit wider, just a teensy bit, but I'm not going to hold that against it, and I could be wrong. And it even has binocular vision as well, so that's fantastic because pretty much all carnivorous theropod dinosaurs had binocular vision, despite what people say. I think people started getting this wrong because specifically Tyrannosaurus would be referenced with binocular vision, so they started thinking that other carnivorous dinosaurs didn't have it. Almost every single carnivorous dinosaur had it. They really need it when you're running at high speed going going after things. Some of them just had better binocular vision than others, or better vision, just period. Now, the two main things that are wrong with this figure are actually in the head itself. They're very minor things, though. Very, very minor things. And one is the tooth size. They are too short. And you could use the excuse of lips, quote-unquote. But if you look on the inside of the mouth, yeah, they're the same size, but they're very slightly, like, it's barely noticeable. It's only really for people that have a really good eye for these types of things, like myself, and also people that really know a lot about Giganotosaurus in particular, which is also myself. I check both those boxes. So this really isn't going to bother you guys too much, and it barely even bothers me. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I just kind of noticed it. The other thing is something I forgot to bring up in all my other reviews for paleontological accuracy. People should start incorporating it. These companies should start incorporating it, but I'm not going to really hold it against this figure because nobody's really doing it, and like I said, I'm holding it up to modern day standards. And that's that they included a tongue. And I don't remember what the name of the bone is, but there's this bone that you can find on the inside of the mouth of dinosaurs, and it is the attachment point for the tongue muscle, and it has a little bit to do with swallowing and the throat action there. This is a very rare bone to fossilize, but in certain dinosaurs it has fossilized. Smaller theropod dinosaurs, we find that they actually did have very complex tongues similar to modern day birds, that they could use them almost like a prehensile tail or something like that. It's similar to that, where they can use it in multiple ways. Now, large carnivorous dinosaurs, though, they had tongues similar to alligators and crocodiles, and if you know what they look like, it's basically nothing. The tongue has actually flattened itself out with the bottom of the mouth, and has become just basically the new covering. It's not really able to move it at all. So really, this elevated tongue shouldn't be there, and technically it's an inaccuracy, but like I said, everybody's kind of making that mistake, and so I'm not really going to hold it against this figure in particular, but I do want to see companies start to incorporate that, because it is a very interesting paleontological fact, and I think it should be shown off. Some figures, like I think maybe Papo and stuff, they like to have their tongue doing an extreme thing to make it look cool, because it does look cool. But if you're not going to do it, like the EoFauna Giga is not doing anything with the tongue, you really should just go for the accuracy there and just make the tongue flat like an alligator or crocodile. I hope that taught you guys a little bit about dinosaurs. Because this figure is such a beautiful gem of paleontological accuracy, I have to give this guy a 5 out of 5 for paleontological accuracy, despite the fact that the teeth are slightly too small, and the only other thing I can find is the tongue, which is really nitpicking because like nobody does it, but I do think it's a very cool educational point to bring up, and that's why I'm not holding it against this figure. Moving on to bonus points, this figure is also going to get 2 bonus points, like our Collecta Roaring Rex in the last review. And the first bonus point is for the articulated jaw. This actually has a really fantastic articulated jaw. It doesn't have any like snapping points. As you see, it's not snapping to anything. I mean, it does get a little bit loose in this section right here, but that kind of wore down over time. So who knows how long this will last, but this is EoFauna's first articulated jaw, and I think they did amazing with it. It's one of my favorite articulated jaws. And then the other thing that I'm going to give this figure a bonus point for is that it came with this pretty cool like battle card that EoFauna has been giving out with all their figures. I do want to get the other two, and there's a perfect example of the standing capabilities of this figure, and unfortunately you can see it's getting kind of scuffed up on the bottom of the feet because of that, and I think this hand is also getting some of it, which really sucks. It says Giganotosaurus carolini, which is the species name, and it's from South America. It shows a little size chart there, and it just gives you some stats on it. 4 stars out of 5 on their chart. It's got the same color scheme there, which I actually like the color scheme better on this one here. Before we get into the final rating of this guy, I'm going to drop this down to a 4.5 for the pose, just because it doesn't stand. It's starting to get kind of annoying, and I do think it should be brought down for that. The fact that it doesn't stand very well. But overall, the pose is really, wow, that is really not getting. This figure is about 15.5 inches long, and it is about 4.5 inches high at the highest point. It is also about 3 inches wide. So anyways, let's get this guy to stand for one, so we can do some size comparisons. Here is this Giga Next Door 2 control size comparisons, the 2015 Safari LTD U Tyrannus, and the 2011 Collecta Torosaurus. First size comparison we'll bring in is the Safari Carnegie Giga, and I think they look pretty cool together. The EoFauna one is slightly bigger, even though this one stands taller. Vitae Giganotosaurus. I love this figure a lot, and has only recently been deranked as my first favorite Giganotosaurus figure. This one is now my favorite Giganotosaurus figure. It is a massive figure. The Safari 2017 Giganotosaurus. They actually look really great together. They almost look like a male and a female. Basically the exact same size. The only thing that makes this Safari one taller is the base, but if you actually lift the feet, you can see that they're about the exact same size, which is really incredible. Even more strange is the fact that they are holding the exact same pose. I have a friend that when I first showed him about this Spino dude, he was like a little suspicious. This is also basically the same pose that was held by this animal in the skeleton that I saw at the museum. I think it may just be that they're maybe going off of that. I am kind of wondering if EoFauna was copying Safari, because they have the exact same pose. If you look at that, nearly the exact same figure. I mean, it's really crazy. I do think that the EoFauna one is better overall, and they actually made it able to stand without the base, although I do think I prefer the Safari one with the base, just because it actually doesn't fall over and scratch itself like this one. The final rating of this EoFauna Giganotosaurus, well, it was going to be a 20.5, but now it's just going to be a flat 20, the exact same score as our Collecta Roaring Rex, a flat perfect. Not a perfect figure despite the perfect score, but it is a really amazing one, and I definitely recommend you guys go out and purchase it. Just do be warned that this figure does not stand very well. But I hope you guys like the Paleo-Reviews are back, and make sure you guys go out and get your own EoFauna Giganotosaurus, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Oh boy.